Joining us now here in the Situation Room, the chairman of the House Foreign Affairs Committee, Ed Royce. Mr. Chairman, thanks very much for coming in. I assume you're watching this very tense situation along Israel's northern border. One miscalculation could trigger all-out war.
And if we recall, in 2006, that was triggered by an anti-tank missile being fired into a vehicle and killing several IDF soldiers. 2 were taken captive at the time. And this recently happened again. The one difference is then there was maybe 20,000 rockets and missiles. Now there's 100,000, as at least referenced. And increasingly, those rockets and missiles are no longer just along the Lebanon border. Now the Quds forces, Iran, is moving rockets and missiles up along the Syrian border as well, working with Hezbollah there. So I'm sure it's a very tense situation.
So what's their game plan right now? What do they want? Because, as you know, since 2006, that northern Israeli border has been relatively quiet.
I suspect 2 weeks ago, Nasrallah, the leader for Hezbollah, said that they were looking at invading Israel, Galilee, the northern part of Israel. I expect that's an exaggeration, but certainly the provocations and the attacks indicate that they feel they've got a weaponry now with a lot more delivery capability. I mean, these things can take out a city block, some of the big missiles, and they've got so many of them that maybe they want to test and see, you know, can the Iron Dome stop these salvos if they come through 100 at a time, as referenced? This is a big question.
Because the Hezbollah says the Israelis started this most recent incident by going after a convoy of Hezbollah fighters and an Iranian Revolutionary Guard, all of whom were killed by Israel with an airstrike.
But there's a red line that Israel attempts to impose. That red line is not allowing Iran to bring in larger missiles over that border for the very reason that they're worried that the Iranians will urge Hezbollah again to unleash those on Israel. So every time you see officers, in this case an Iranian general, up at the border and they have this transfer of weaponry, Israel seemingly comes in and interdicts and tries to take out these convoys. So a convoy was hit, and you're right. This is you know, an escalation.
But the Iranians who back the Syrian regime of Bashar al-Assad, the Syrian president, and Hezbollah does as well, they've got their hands full in Syria right now, right? Why do they need to start up something with Israel?
You know, you would think that, but I actually think Hezbollah is not as cavalier in all of this as Iran. I mean, Iran just helped overthrow a government in Yemen with the Quds forces active there. They continue, you know, with this provocation up on the border with Israel, and at the same time they continue obviously their operations that are destabilizing other regimes in the whole area across the Middle East. So I don't have a good answer for why Iran continues to transfer these heavy weapons into the hands of Hezbollah. I assume at some point they intend to use them.
Mr. Chairman, because we have more to discuss, including these latest efforts to free 2 ISIS hostages. We're going to talk about that and more. The chairman of the House Foreign Affairs Committee is standing by. Much more when we come back.